What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today is like part 4, I think, of my nightmare that is my legend push here early in the season. Long queue times, really big down pairs, games lagging out and making it so I lose games that I should win, all that good stuff. But with that said, we're still making progress slowly but surely. This Shadow Jumpluff team was my choice today. Very hard meta stuff here, though. I wanted to try to climb as much as I could, and I figured this team would be the way to do it. So let's see this team in action and figure out what Shadow Jumpluff can do. All right, let's get right onto the first game of the day. Shadow Jumpluff as our lead against Shadow Drapion. Now, while we are a grass type into a poison type, this matchup isn't quite as bad as you might expect, specifically because of acrobatics here. I can survive a crunch. If they are running Sludge Bomb, more power to them, but that is a very rare moveset. Yeah, just no shield to crunch, and no debuff is good to see, but I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace bait. They might think this is an acrobatics, which would basically one-shot them here. We do end up drawing a shield, and then we save swap here to our Shadow Drapion. The reason I do that is because I know the longer that matchup goes, the more likely they can just completely poison sting down my Jumpluff. I'd rather get a shield, use my Shadow Drapion, and see if we can draw something out in the backline, and maybe if I need to realign my Shadow Jumpluff later on into that Drapion and acrobatics them when I can, just build up energy against a different matchup. We see an Azu come back into our Drapion here, a Pokemon that obviously is going to absorb all of our energy, but super effective Poison Sting will add up over time, and the Switch Clock is just a little bit desynced here, so I might be able to dance around that if we try our best here. In comes a Charge Move. Ice Beam likely will be thrown against us. I'm going to shield this up, bank this energy, and if I can, come in Lapras here after banking a full crunch. They can go for Play Rough against us if they want to, but just building up a ton of energy here will make their life very uncomfortable. At this point, they're in range where a Sparkling Aria could knock them out, and Psywaves might even knock them out here if they do stay in. They do opt to swap out here to the Shadow Drapion. I go for a Sparkling Aria. Unfortunately, not quite enough energy for a Skull Bash, but our opponent might still shield nonetheless. They want to keep their Drapion healthy here, and in comes yet another Sparkling Aria. This will either come close to knocking them out, or just straight up get the KO against Shadow Drapion. Charge Move is thrown, but it is not quite enough here to knock them out. Do I shield? Do I not? I feel like at this point, shielding this is our safest play, so I do shield, go for a full Sidewave down, but not before a Crunch debuff is going to lower our defense stat. We see the final Pokemon is going to be a Dugong here. I'm going to try to reach for the Skull Bash, but one turn short of reaching it. Maybe I should have CMP'd on that Sparkling Aria. This endgame is going to be extremely close. I do have energy on both my Jumpluff and my Shadow Drapion, but these Ice Shards are going to hurt way too much on my Jumpluff here. I'm not sure if I can survive long enough to reach both a Crunch on my Drapion and an acrobatics on my Shadow Jumpluff. Crunch being thrown, is this going to get a debuff? If it does, maybe Aerial Ace could be enough. No, we don't get the debuff, but Shadow Jumpluff able to come in, go and survive long enough here to reach the acrobatics. Azumarill is still in the backline, but they are energy dry. We can outpace them to an Aerial Ace and Shadow Jumpluff here in the backline, able to close out this game just barely, but thanks to the acrobatics pressure here, able to win this one here. Aerial Ace comes through, knocks out the Azu, and wins us the match. All right, next game, we're going to see Shadow Jumpluff once again as our lead into a Claydol, a much better lead this time, although they could have access to either Ice Beam or Rock Tomb, or maybe both, which could be a little bit odd if they do stay in here. They are staying in, so I would have to imagine they're going to either debuff us or potentially just bank this energy for later on. Since we do not have Energy Ball, this matchup is slightly worse for us, actually. Acrobatics is still a very hard-hitting move, and we do, in fact, draw a shield from this Claydol, which is good for us, I guess, but because now we are likely going to take a Rock Tomb debuff, the next Acrobatics will do quite a bit less damage. They go for the Rock Tomb, and that will two-shot us thanks to our Shadow lowering our defense stat here, and in comes a Wigglytuff as a safe swap. Lapras is one of the best neutral answers to Wiggles in the game, despite not resisting any damage. Psywave and Sparkling Aria add up so quickly here, and we're a pretty bulky Pokemon that can survive these charms as well as these Swifts. I'm going to go for a Skull Bash because I feel like at this point that defense increase is going to be amazing for us, make it so these charms do even less damage. I'm not sure if it will quite one-shot or put them into Psywave downrange. It doesn't look like it barely does here, but we can try to go for it. Not on 1 HP. We are not able to get that farm down, but we can shield farm down and once again have a charge move for whatever is going to come in. Either a Skull Bash, no, probably not a Skull Bash, but a Sparkling Aria at the very least will be thrown against whatever is going to try to farm us down, and it's a Bastiodon, a Pokemon which by no means we want to see with honestly any of our team, right? We're weak to rock with both our Lapras as well as our Shadow Jumpluff here. Our opponent snipes us down with a Mud Slap with his Claydol, and now this endgame is going to be exceedingly difficult. A Rock Tomb already reached from this Claydol. I am now going to be permanently debuffed in this matchup, but I need to land an Acrobatics if I want any chance of winning this game. In comes the charge move. Our opponent is going to potentially let this go. They do, which now means that our Jumpluff is going to try to get shields with Aerial Ace. If we can get a shield here or a knockout, maybe my Shadow Drapion can still play in the back line, but this is going to be so close. Acrobatics does draw a shield here. Aerial Ace will just barely be able to outpace this Claydol and be just a good amount of chip damage, maybe put them into range where I can Poison Sting down. We do end up landing the move, but because that debuff debuff from that Rock Tomb, not quite enough to knock them out. With that said, at this point, we can Poison Sting down this Claydol, go for a couple Aqua Tails against that Bastion. We might still have a chance this game as long as we can survive one Stone Edge, plus all of the smackdowns are going to get off into us here. In comes an Aqua Tail. Our opponent at this point is so incredibly healthy, but I did get that Aqua Tail, or that Sparkling Aria off rather, so I only need 3 Aqua Tails to knock out this Bastion. Charge move coming through here. Stone Edge is a very efficient attack, but it is from a Bastion, so I think I can survive this. Its attack stat not known to be too high. We do survive, but our health is very low. If I end up taking another Mud Slap from that Claydol, I might end up getting knocked out here. Aqua Tail once again being thrown, our third move from our Drapion into this Bastion. This should knock out, but if that Claydol does reach that Mud Slap against us, we will lose the game, but no, one Poison Sting is all it takes. We can knock out the Claydol, barely clinching that matchup. All right, next game, a terrible lead, another poison type. We saw the Drapion in the lead earlier, but Weezing is honestly a lot trickier to deal with here, mainly because if I were to stay in that lead matchup, my Fairy Winds would be resisted, and they generally run either Overheat or Sludge, or sometimes even both. We take a Sludge, which is pretty good to see here. Our opponent swaps now into a Shadow Annihilate, a Pokemon which is a little bit tricky to deal with because obviously we have resisted fast move pressure, but we can outpace them, go for an Aqua Tail here now, and potentially get a shield advantage, which could set up a nice endgame sweep with either our Lapras or our Shadow Jumpluff. We do draw a shield with Aqua Tail, good stuff there, but our opponent likely does have Ice Punch, which will do a decent amount of damage back in return here. Jumpluff will easily tank this, so I say easily, it's going to be like 75% of our HP, so not really an easy tank, right? But we will survive it, go for a full farm down, maybe have enough energy to now throw an Acrobatics into that Weezing if they do bring it back in. We did get a few Poison Stings against them. This Acrobatics as well is fantastic chip damage against them right now. It doesn't quite knock them out, but Lapras now can Sidewave down. Final Pokemon revealed is going to be a Grumpig. This Pokemon is one of the best Lapras answers, but down energy, down shields, not quite as much, right? They need to land a Dynamic Punch, and because 2 Sparkling Arias are enough to knock them out here, I know for a fact I can go for 2, knock them out, and just shield up every move they're going to throw. My only lose condition in this match right now is allowing a catch to happen this game. We go for the Sparkling Aria right now. Let's see if they end up shielding. I would have to assume that they do, but if they make a catch on my next charge attack, that could be catastrophic. Switch Clock's coming up in just a second. After this next Dynamic Punch, they will be able to swap out here, so we'll see what they're going to do. In comes the Dynamic Punch. We do shield it up, and I'm going to throw the Sparkling Aria. Luckily, no catch does end up happening here. Maybe a miscount by our opponent here. Maybe they were hoping that I would overfarm, but it is enough to take out the Grumpig, and now we can Sidewave down the rest of that Weezing and barely flip that very uncomfortable lead matchup in our favor. All right, next game, another Claydol on the lead. Last time we saw this Pokemon, there was a Bastion in the backline. This time they Safe Swap a Cradily, it looks like here, a Pokemon that is a little bit awkward for us to see, but because we can outpace them to an Aerial Ace, we will throw this move and try to chip them down before coming in with our Shadow Drapion. We know that we have a lot of play into Claydol with both our Lapras as well as our Shadow Jumpluff, so it's not really necessary this game that I do win Switch, although it wouldn't be a bad idea at this point, because this Cradily is going to be kind of tricky to take out, honestly, if I do end up letting my Drapion go down. Another Crunch is going to be thrown this time. It might get a debuff. Will it? Our opponent does get debuffed, which is good to see here. Might actually open up a Sidewave farm down potential here, which means I can no-shield this, try to get a huge energy lead on our Lapras, and potentially start flipping endgame matchups depending on what their final Pokemon is going to be. We know about that Claydol still. They do swap out, and they actually swap back into the Claydol, interestingly enough. This Pokemon is going to take a super effective Sparkling Aria, although our Sidewaves are resisted against this Psychic-type Pokemon, so it's not quite enough to put them into a farm down range. I think at this point, I'm going to make them drain energy against our Lapras. I can shield up a Rock Tomb pretty easily here, build up energy, maybe throw another Sparkling Aria, or maybe just swap out and clear our debuff. I feel like at this point, just getting this Claydol out of the way will be the easiest way to win this matchup, so I will throw this move. Our opponent does actually let that go, and now what will they come in with? If it's that Cradily, then it might be an interesting matchup. It's actually Shadow Feraligatr here, and I think this endgame could get just a little bit dicey. I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace. They know at this point this is not an Energy Ball or an Acrobatics. They know Shield, which potentially just opens up a fast move farm down win condition for us here. I know this is likely going to be an Ice Beam, but Jumpluff at this point doesn't have a lot of fast move pressure. Sidewave is going to have so much more fast move pressure against them. I'm just going to let that go and try our best to tap our phone screen and win this game. I don't think I can no-shield. If I do, I get farmed down. I have to shield this up and hope that Cradily does not get to a second charge move here. In comes Cradily. They get Sidewave down, and we can Sidewave down the rest of the Shadow Feraligatr right before another Hydro Cannon is reached, barely winning that matchup. All right, next game, a Shadow Jumpluff lead into a Guzzlord. Fantastic lead matchup. Let's see what our opponent is going to have in the back. An instant safe swap to a Shadow Galarian Weezing. Our super effective Sidewave damage is very effective here, but we have to keep in mind Weezing is a very powerful Pokemon, and Sludge is one of the most efficient moves in the game. It paces at 5-4, 5-4 pacing, so they might even be able to outpace us here the longer this goes, especially with this energy lead. So what I want to do here is just try our very best to get a shield advantage, because I know while Guzzlord is a bit tricky for a Shadow Drapion, a lot of Pokemon don't want to face face a shield disadvantage Shadow Jumpluff. Sparkling Aria number 2 does draw a second shield. At this point, I think I'm content. Just let Switch Advantage go down, use our Shadow Drapion to farm down, or at least neutralize this Shadow Galarian Weezing, and then invest in a 2-shield Shadow Jumpluff sweep. Worst case scenario, there's an A-slash in the backline, and they're just ABA weak to counter. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's just going to be some sort of neutral matchup that we can win. We know that unless they're running Overheat, we can resist all of their charge moves with our Shadow Drapion. Poison Stings are doing quite a bit of damage to them as well. Sludge ends up landing, but we can get either a full farm down with our Drapion, or just get a bit of energy there, as well as energy on Jumpluff in the top left, likely having a Pokemon in the backline, not able to take out a 2-shield Jumpluff. All right, next game, another Galarian Weezing, this time in the lead matchup once again. A very tricky lead here, and in comes a Shadow Annihilate as the counter swap. I have Crunch, and as we've seen, it does a lot of damage Shadow into Shadow. Let's see what our opponent's going to do here. Crunch is going to end up landing, actually, and getting a defense drop, which makes it do even more damage with our fast move of Poisoning into this Annihilate. In comes an Ice Punch here, so no boost by them, and we have Aqua Tail ready to go. But I think if they shield this, they might actually be able to counter us all the way down, but it could also be a shield KO. We were able to throw the move, and 1 HP knocks out through the shield, gives us just a little bit of life in this game, meaning that we get our shield back as well as switch advantage here. Drapion able to win the 1 somehow in this matchup. Back in comes that Weezing. We go for an Aqua Tail against them, and this Fairy Wind Down rather is going to happen against us. Psywave Lapras is going to try to do as much as it can here, but I want to hope that the final Pokemon is going to be something that our Shadow Jumpluff has play into. Weezing is so bad for it, and the backline is a bit of an awkward Pokemon, a Claydol. This Pokemon, once our Shadow Drapion is gone, especially up energy, our Shadow Jumpluff really does not want to see. Rock Tomb is super effective. It does 2-shot us here, which means now our Shadow Jumpluff is going to be debuffed. It's going to be in range now, where it's going to be such an awkward game to win. Acrobatics, though, still will do a massive amount of damage, and they do let it go, thinking that maybe if I did have Ice Beam on my Lapras in the backline, they wouldn't want to shield an Acrobatics as it has already been debuffed. In comes another Rock Tomb here. Our opponent opts to, well, I guess I opt to shield that, and now we're going to go for an Aerial Ace bait. We have back-to-back here. I'm hoping that they shield this and they throw Rock Tomb right after, but if they no-shield, that is a huge call by them, and since they do no-shield, I think at this point we might lose this game, despite getting that massive shield KO earlier on. They can overfarm here, they can outpace my Lapras to a charge move, and that Weezing at this point is far too healthy for our Lapras just to complete Sidewave down, so I don't think that we can win this game with this Rock Tomb coming through. They're going to outpace us to another Rock Tomb with our Lapras, and now not only debuff us, but do a super effective charge attack into us, putting us either into Fairy Wind down range, or even just a Sludge or Brutal Swing at this point will be enough. Our attack lowered, not enough here to knock out this Weezing. So tragic. I thought when I got that shield KO, this would be a very easy game to win, but because our opponent ended up having that Claydol core breaker in the backline, still not quite enough. All right, next game, Shadow Jumpluff into another Shadow, or non-Shadow Galarian Weezing this time. It's going to be a Pokemon that our Shadow Drapion does have play into, build up energy, and see what they want to do. We go instantly for the Aqua Tail this time. I've been caught on quite a few times going for Aqua Tail instantly into these Weezings, but I've also seen them sometimes stay and try to go for either Overheat or Sludge baits against us. This time, I will shield it up because they did build up a ton of energy here. What is it going to be? It is just a Sludge, but at this point, we've chipped down this Weezing quite a bit, basically into range where Aerial Ace could even knock them out. We go for an Aqua Tail. Our opponent is going to have to shield this if they don't want to get knocked out here, which we do see a shield, and then a swap out, I guess, which means now they have a lot of energy on that Weezing that we will have to keep track of. With that said, we have the ability to go for Crunch here, maybe decent the Switch Clocks, come in with our Lapras at some point, and keep energy on our Drapion. Since now we have our Jumpluff away from both a Poison type and an Ice type, there is a decent amount of wiggle room for us right now, but Skull Bash is going to make it so now this defense decrease that we got from Crunch is going to be counteracted, and I'm not sure that a Sparkling Aria would be quite enough at that range to knock them out. With that said, I think I can overfarm, get to back-to-back Sparkling Aria, survive this one, and go for a Sparkling Aria of my own. If they shield, I have a second one. If they no shield, I still have a second one that I can throw against whatever's going to come in here, and we should either get a knockout or a decent amount of damage. They come in with Golisopod, a Pokemon which generally resists Lapras' moveset, but because I'm not running Ice Beam, Skull Bash is either going to land or get their final shield. They do let it go, knowing I have a Shadow Jumpluff likely with Acrobatics in the backline. That would easily one-shot them here. And now, while their Weezing is still alive, and while they do have a Sludge, they are not able to get to back-to-back here. Aerial Ace will knock them out at this range. They're going to be forced to shield this. Our Shadow Drapion as well is outside of range where a Sludge would even come close to knocking us out. I think we can outpace anyway, go for an Aqua Tail there, and then finish off this game with Fast Move Pressure against that Golisopod. Aqua Tail now is going to be enough to knock out this Galarian Weezing. Our opponent with no shields left over has to throw energy against our Drapion if they want to knock us out before a Poison Sting down is going to happen, but our Shadow Jumpluff is still nearly at full HP here. We can either farm down or reach an Aerial Ace. Our opponent realizes that, and they end up top lefting. All right, next matchup is a Shadow Jumpluff into a Shadow Jumpluff lead matchup here. a bit of an awkward matchup because Acrobatics nearly one-shots Shadow into Shadow, but if you win CMP or lose CMP, it can change how you want to play out this matchup. I do end up losing CMP, and I went for a bait of Aerial Ace of my own. Our opponent is going to go for Aerial Ace. Good thing that I called that here. If I would have shielded after losing CMP, that could have been pretty bad, but my own Aerial Ace is going to be thrown, and now our opponent lets that go. I'm going to swap out, start building up energy on Shadow Drapion because I don't feel like playing out that lead matchup. It would just get worse the longer it goes on, knowing that I am never going to be able to knock out this Jumpluff before they can knock me out. So now by getting this energy lead, I can at least make something happen here, get a lot of Poison Sting, Fast Food Pressure into them, and build up energy. They come in with their own Drapion here, which is kind of interesting. I'm kind of wondering if it's like a mirror team at this point. If it is, this game could get very interesting. Aqua Tail being thrown into my Drapion. We did take some Fairy Wind, so I think the next Aqua Tail could potentially knock us out here. They are at that next Aqua Tail right now. I think at this point I might be able to swap out, catch an Aqua Tail on our Lapras, and Psywave all the way down. They do throw the move at this point. They knew I had another Aqua Tail. They were forced to throw that move at that point if they wanted a chance to get it off, and now I can Psywave down the Drapion and see what they come in with. They still have like 2 Fairy Winds, I believe, on that Jumpluff, which could be a little bit tricky to deal with, but they actually come in with a Lapras here, a Pokemon which is a little bit tricky for a backline, but I guess that does mean it is going to be the entire mirror team. We have an energy lead, but a shield disadvantage, but we also have energy across the board here. Shadow Drapion left with a full Aqua Tail, and since we got a defense boost before this, Lapras is going to be able to boost their defense potentially. We will be able to take a double debuffed, or double defense boosted, that is Skull Bash, against our own Lapras here, which should help us out quite a bit. Skull Bash coming through our opponent is at +1 defense, but they do also opt to shield it up here, and this is going to be very interesting to see if I can survive this attack. If I do, I might want to swap out because I don't think I get to another Skull Bash, and I can save the Sparkling Aria and come in with our Drapion, go for a Crunch, and potentially still win this game. They have some energy still left over on the Lapras. They can likely outpace us before I can get to an Aqua Tail. Our opponent will throw the Charge Move at the last second here, but I know as long as my Shadow Jumpluff can overfarm, get in range where I'm 2 Fairy Winds away from another Aerial Ace against that Jumpluff, we should be able to win this game. Lapras here is basically energy dry. They throw a Charge Move instantly. I know at this point I should survive this. This is just going to be a Sparkling Aria. We can get to back-to-back Charge Moves, and now we should be able to win this game going back-to-back Aerial Aces against this Pokemon. We have 1 for this Lapras, we have 1 for that Shadow Jumpluff, and barely able to clutch out the mirror matchup win by kind of dancing around just a little bit more than our opponent did in this game. Ace is going to come through, knock out the Jumpluff, and take us a win in that match. All right, next matchup here, we're going to see Shadow Jumpluff into an Alolan Sandslash. That's kind of terrible, actually, for us here. Going to save swap our Shadow Drapion and see what we can do. It is Shadow Claw, which means a little bit less fast food pressure against us, which is kind of nice. And they threw after 5, meaning this is only an Ice Punch, but this is still pretty bad. They're going to trip us down and likely come into a Pokemon that walls our energy. Like, that's not quite a hard wall here. They actually come in with a Jumpluff, which is a very interesting Pokemon to see. Crunch is going to do a lot of damage here, and our opponent also gets a defense decrease on them, which might make it so I can flip this the longer it goes on. In comes an Aerial Ace against us. We do have to shield at this point to keep our Shadow Drapion alive, but I need to flip switch. I can never have my Jumpluff against that A-Slash. If I do, then I instantly lose this game, and if I can flip switch, then there is still just a sliver of a chance that we can win this one. At this point, I think I can just shield this, either farm down or get to double Aqua Tails here to win this game. Let's see what we can do right now. Our opponent is taking so much damage from these Poison Stings, just barely able to get a full farm down. If A-Slash comes in, I can reach 2 Charge Moves against them. If it's whatever their third Pokemon is, then we'll be able to see their whole team. They do come in A-Slash. They are going to no-shield the first Crunch here. I'm able to survive another Shadow Claw, get to another Crunch, and after that defense drop, no way they can survive this move. We will likely get a shield back or a 2-to-1 Pokemon advantage in the backline. You see a non-Shadow Feraligatr, only 1 Shadow Claw of an energy lead here, so we're going to go for the Aerial Ace, try our very best to chip down this Pokemon before getting hit by a potential Ice Beam here. It does end up landing, and I think we're in a pretty good spot right now. We're going to try to catch a move on Lapras, but we don't get the catch, and I'm kind of wondering right now if I just threw the game by doing this, it's going to be a very close endgame matchup, because I don't know how much these Shadow Claws and Hydro Cannons are going to do. The way that they can win this game is if they come out of this matchup with 6 Shadow Claws of energy, and they can knock out my Lapras with about 3 Hydro Cannons. It looks like 3 will be enough here, but will they have just enough energy to knock us out? I'm only 1 Fairy Wind away from an Aerial Ace, so they need a ton of energy coming out of this matchup, but that is kind of the perfect farm down range. Maybe I threw this matchup. Maybe I shouldn't have swapped out of our Jumpluff. Maybe I should have made them throw the Ice Beam there, and now, because of this energy lead, they actually have the perfect farm. They are 1 Shadow Claw away from an Ice Beam, and I threw this game. It was a terrible lead matchup. It was a terrible counter swap for us to have to deal with, but for some reason, after coming back from it, we still throw it and lose that game. I guess they're GG to our opponent. All right, next matchup is another pretty awkward lead. We're going to try to swap to Shadow Drapion, although Corviknight's not honestly quite as bad for us as an A-Slash would be, mainly because it doesn't have quite as quick charge move pressure here, and 2 crunches will do a lot of damage to this Pokemon. Crunch number 1 ends up landing. Our opponent will throw a charge move against us. A Sky Attack would do a decent amount here, but it might just be an Iron Head depending on if they want to get a bit more pacing here on their charge moves. They do end up going for that Iron Head. I go for another Crunch. Our opponent, at this point, if they want to keep their Corviknight healthy, will have to shield, but if they let this go, they might survive on about 1 HP. They do shield, no defense drop. Once again, here is a little bit unfortunate. And they are going to let us get another Crunch, but they let it get caught on a Claydol. But Crunch, I think, on Claydol here is going to be pretty important for us to land. I also get a defense drop, which means that if they do debuff my attack, which I mean, that's not even an if, right? It's going to be a guarantee. They're going to go for the Rock Tomb against our Jumpluff. Then this debuff is not going to matter all that much. Rock Tomb ends up landing, does a massive amount of damage to us here. I'm almost at 100 energy. I don't think they're going to shield this, but even if they do, I can go for an Acrobatics and then an Aerial Ace and then potentially get a 2 shield advantage for our Lapras. Now we have the Ace ready to go. Our opponent could shield this up. Or no, I guess they already shielded the Acrobatics, so they're down 2 shields at this point, and they swap out with the energy on their Claydol. This is a little bit awkward now because they have energy on Claydol, they have energy on Corviknight. I have Lapras in the backline, I have 2 shields, but they're going to get a lot of chip damage just with faster pressure here and potentially debuff us with that Rock Tomb. Charge move being thrown by this Corviknight, it's just an Iron Head, but I will have to shield that up because at this point I have to shield something. We can shield against that Claydol, farm them all the way down with Sidewaves, and also clear our debuff with Shadow Drapion. So I'm just hoping whatever the final Pokemon is going to be is something that I have play into. In comes what here from our opponent? We're waiting to see what's going to come in. They have energy on the Claydol. They go for the Snipe down here. I tried to make a catch. It didn't quite work out, which means I will have to invest my final shield in this matchup, but that's fine at this point. I can still shield, farm all the way down, and clear my debuff at the last second here, making it so I can guarantee at this point that I am not attack dropped. But our chip damage on our Lapras might actually come into play here. If they have Skull Bash of their own, I'm not sure that I can knock them out here with a Skull Bash plus a Sparkling Aria, but I think they might be able to, even though I'll get my first defense increase before theirs. In comes a charge move. I have to hope at this point that they are not on Skull Bash. If they are, which it looks like they will be, I take a massive amount of damage, and even at +1 defense, Sidewave still is doing 2 damage per turn to us here, putting us in range where Sparkling Aria will be enough to knock us out, and unfortunately, despite being in a decent spot there, once again, losing that match. All right, next game, we're going to see a Swalot here into our Shadow Jumpluff. This is a very, I would say, awkward matchup for us, right? They have Ice Beam, potentially they have Sludge, but their Faster Pressure does almost nothing to us here, and Acrobatics is a very efficient move. This could be an Ice Beam they threw after 7, so I'm going to shield this up, go for an Acrobatics, and see what they want to do. The Faster Pressure, once again, is doing almost nothing to us here. In comes the Acrobatics against them, and now, if I can, I'm going to try to catch a Charge Move on our Lapras. We do get a catch. If this is an Ice Beam, we're in a very good spot, but if this is a Sludge, then we're still in a decent spot, but that is a good play by them. Yeah, they just go for the Sludge there, which is a decent play, but because now I have energy on my Jumpluff and I still caught the move, we're in a spot where we're going to have a bit more wiggle room potentially in the backline. Gliscopod comes in here, X-Scissor is going to land, and it does quite a bit of damage to us here, I guess, but I have a Skull Bash ready to go, which should at this point either draw a shield or basically get a knockout against this Water-type Pokemon. They do shield it up, which is a little unfortunate. Honestly, I would have liked a knockout there, and I am able to barely reach this next Sparkling Aria before getting completely farmed down. This will probably not get a knockout, but it will put them pretty low in a range where I can not Shadow Claw, this is a Drapion, this is a Poison Sting down with our Shadow Drapion, which potentially will give us a lot of energy for the backline, but there is still that Swalot in the back, and they get another Charge Move off, which is such an awkward spot to be in. I have to shield this up. I don't want to, but I know I have to, and I just have to see what their final Pokemon is going to be to see if we have any sort of play. We have 5 Poison Stings of energy. What is going to come in? They're taking quite a bit of time to come in, but it is going to be a Diggersby in the back. That is not what you want to see here. I have back-to-back Aqua Tails. I know they are at the Fire Punch. I'm going to try to catch the Fire Punch right now on our Shadow Jumpluff if I can. We go for the catch, and we get it, which means now they don't have any energy on this Diggersby. I have a lot of energy left over on my Shadow Jumpluff, and if I can, maybe I can knock out the Swalots here with an Acrobatics. They instantly throw a Charge Move, which I think, in my opinion, is a little bit of a misplay, because by throwing this energy here, while they do super effective Sludge damage, they are not going to be able to knock me out. They can't fast move me down with this Swalot. I try to get an Undercharge to potentially go for a Fairy Wind down. It doesn't quite work out here, but we still have a lot of HP on our Jumpluff. If I can get a shield from this Pokemon, or if I can land an Aerial Ace, or if I can get both, there is a chance I can win this game. I have that Aqua Tail loaded in the backline. I can reach an Ace right before the farm down. That Aqua Tail in the backline after this Aerial Ace should be enough to knock out. The only way we lose this game is a 1-turn lag, making it so we can't throw the Charge Move, and there it is, the 1-turn lag, making it so Diggersby throws the Scorching Sands, not able to reach the Aqua Tail, and yeah, we lose a game there that we honestly outplayed them pretty good, right? But I guess sometimes that it just happens, right? All right, next game is a Corviknight lead. So we're going to try our best here for Shadow Drapion once again to be the safe swap. Our opponent is staying in just like last time. We have access to Crunch, which might debuff their defense stat, but we have not been too lucky with that today, especially against these Corviknights. I'm going to shield up this charge attack here, see what they're going to throw, and try our best to reach another Crunch. In comes our next Crunch here. They are in the yellow, but because I didn't get that defense drop, I'm not quite sure this will be enough to knock them out. Crunch being thrown, what is our opponent going to do? It is going to be a Crunch, and it will land. We get the defense drop there, but a little too late. The next Poison Sting not quite enough to knock them out, and an Iron Head or Sky Attack being thrown against us. I do double shield because it seems like my Drapion is kind of putting in some work against our opponent's team here. We actually saw a very similar team earlier. It might even be the same player. Sometimes when you're up this high in the leaderboard, you fight the same people a couple times a day. So if this is the same team, then we know it's a Claydol in the backline, which could be a very uncomfortable matchup depending on how they play it out. If this is the same player, they do have Skull Bash, and it does seem like Skull Bash is going to be thrown against us here, but this game is playing out much differently than last time. I do have a Skull Bash worth of energy, but I go for the Sparkling Aria, knowing at this point I can sidewave them all the way down. If they do end up surviving, they might get a Sparkling Aria off of their own, but because I know we can still reach one against that Claydol, if that is their final Pokemon, we might still be in a decent spot. There it is, Claydol does come in, I have the Sparkling Aria, and despite being in a bit of an uncomfortable spot, being down 2 shields against this Pokemon, I have a lot of energy across the board. I can go for an Aqua Tail here against this Claydol. In fact, I can go for 2, which means I might draw a shield. I might even just get a knockout depending on what they do. Aqua Tail does come through. They no-shield. That is a crazy no-shield in my opinion. That could have been a Crunch. That could have just completely knocked them out here, but I guess they call it. I have another Aqua Tail ready to go, which does draw a shield, and now they will throw a charge move against us. I need to get to 2 moves on my Jumpluff against this Pokemon before they're able to reach 2 Rock Tombs against my Jumpluff. Is that possible? I have to hope that it is, but there is still 3 Pokemon on their side, but a lot of them are very low on HP, so this is going to be a very tight endgame. With that said, Fairy Winds are also doing a lot of fast pressure to them here. Maybe I don't even need 2 charge moves to win this game. I can go for the Aerial Ace and maybe even just sidewave everything down at this point. Let's see what's going to happen. In comes the next Aerial Ace. They have to shield this up if they want any chance to win this one, and of course that is exactly what they do. We both swap out there. I Sidewave down the Lapras. If the Corviknight comes in, I can Sidewave them down, but can I Sidewave down this Claydol before the Bullet Seeds knock us out? We can, just barely, and we win that match, getting revenge on the earlier match here in the day, and able to win that one there. So love to see it. 29-55, new season high with this Shadow Jumpluff team. So despite some game errors, despite some potential misplays as well today, still able to climb quite a bit here. Within 45 points of Legend, we'll see if it happens anytime soon. So yeah, it's probably still going to be a bit till I get it. No one's got Legend yet, so it's not like there's a lot of up pairs, there's a lot of down pairs, which means even 3-2s, 4-1s, they don't give a lot of points. Sometimes 3-2s even lose you elo, and of course negative sets, they drop you so much. So, you know, we'll see. I'll keep on running meta teams, and I'll see if I can get it early on in this season. But thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the battles and you want to see more content like this on the channel, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. But thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.